Hello again. Now, giving women access to safe and clean water could be what South Africa needs to have a thriving future. That's according to Amnesty International South Africa, which says women are the ones who mostly suffer the consequences of lack of water due to their roles as caretakers, especially now as we grapple with COVID-19. The organization is running the Turn on the Tap campaign. We discuss this further now with Minka Statler from Amnesty International South Africa via Skype. Thank you very much, Minka, for joining us. You often hear people say that water is life, yet in many instances life is being zapped from many people. Let's talk about the big idea behind the Turn on the Tap campaign.
Yes, the big idea is that what COVID-19 has done is it has really highlighted pre-existing inequalities. So water, the right to water, which is a basic human right and is enshrined in our constitution, being one of them. And we feel that this campaign, what we're calling for, is that the government duty is to provide this basic human right, but that they do so transparently, accountably, and progressively. And what we mean by that is transparently, really communicating exactly what they're doing at all times, even which they have been doing, to an extent with the water tankers. But are these water tankers going to be continually filled up? Then accountability, who's accountable? How is the money going to be managed and used to bring water to these communities? And then progressive. And what we mean by that is looking towards the future. What sort of infrastructure is going to be put into these communities so that they can have access to safe, reliable and clean water? Sometimes there is water, but it's not safe or it's not reliable. Sometimes the tap works, sometimes it doesn't. And this campaign, we feel, is extremely important to call on government to really make this time now count. And it's not just us that are saying this. Anyone can join us to say this. They can come to our website and join with their voices, tell us about their water experiences, and really let's see this change as we go forward.
You collected a number of testimonies from people that you have spoken to. Tell us about the 8 informal settlements in Witzenberg municipality in the Western Cape, which is reported to be a hotspot.
Yes, so we reached out to our activism, to our activists all over the country, saying, please spread the word. We need to hear about people who have been struggling to access water. And what we received back, and we also spoke to women, the Women in Mining, the Women's African Alliance. And the testimonies that we received back was, like you say, in Witzenberg, that there's 8 informal settlements there that have been really struggling to access water for around 7 years, and obviously, as we know, that's one of the hotspots. So yes, water is being delivered, but what is the plan going forward so that one doesn't get into this panic situation again, and that, going forward, these communities are served? And you mentioned earlier, we do feel that women still bear the brunt of this. So, due to traditional values, women are still the ones that cook, that clean, that care for the health of their families, generally, obviously. And we feel that if women are really, and they go out to look for water, and even now during lockdown, we've had reports of people being threatened or harassed by the police who have been out trying to find water. We also saw a report of a woman who was shot with rubber bullets and she lost her eye. So for us, it's also very important to say that there's a gender aspect here too, and that women really, being the caregivers traditionally, need to have access to clean, safe, reliable water as well.
Absolutely. What of the women in Qwaqwa in the Free State that you spoke to, who told you about health problems that they incur from walking miles on end, carrying heavy buckets of water?
Sometimes there are older women as well, women who are more advanced in age, who also look after a number of people, right? So they look after their grandchildren, even sometimes their great-grandchildren. And they told us, yes, that they walk for really long distances, and that obviously it has an impact on their physical health. And that's very important to us as well. So it's not just about being safe, because obviously going out looking for water has its safety aspects as well, but the long distances What is the physical health of people that really have to walk so long and then carry these buckets back? And they have to do that a number of times over periods of time as well, right? Because the water doesn't last forever, so they have to go back and get it again. And with some of these areas, maybe there was water in the past, but now the fact that the infrastructure hasn't been maintained, the fact that there are no pipes or the taps are not running, has now been exacerbated by things like droughts and climate change. And that means that sometimes they have to walk even further than they have before to fetch water. And something we want to be very clear about is, of course, drought and climate change is not something that the government can control. But unfortunately, due to corruption and mismanagement and the fact that pre-existing infrastructure wasn't maintained or new infrastructure wasn't built, things like climate change and drought exacerbate problems as opposed to being the sole cause of them.
Absolutely. Through the voices of these women, what is the call to government?
The call to government is that we do see what they've been doing during the pandemic. Of course, we do ask, why was it possible now during a pandemic and not in the last couple of decades? But let's leave that behind us. Let's think forward. And great to deliver tankers. We do receive reports that not all communities have received them, though. But what is the future plan for these tankers? What are the future plan for these communities, the 2,000 communities that they mentioned at the beginning of the pandemic that they would be delivering water to? And what is the economic, what is the money plan? How is there going to be a zero tolerance of corruption as well? And that has to be extremely transparent. Everyone needs to know. It must be easy to find the plans and the transparency. And we hope that then we won't be seeing people sitting without water again in the future when their lives are at risk.
Thank you very much, Minka Statler from Amnesty International South Africa.